All right, you want to talk about the Acolyte?
Yeah, let's do it. We just watched episode 7. So in episode 6, not a lot happened. It was like Osha is on the planet with Asian Ezra Miller. He like bathes and she like sees his dick, and then she puts on his helmet, and that's about it. And then also there's a sequence where Soul is on a ship with May, who he thinks is Osha or he knows is not Osha. It's hard to say.
Leslie said he knew it was May the whole time.
I don't think Soul's a very powerful Jedi. I don't think he's totally in the dark about who's on that ship with him. That's what I'll say.
It's not clear in the show. Like the power goes out, and then she's like, there's like a weird scene with the beaver character and her, and he's like chasing her and trying to do karate moves on her. And then, it just is basically revealed that, Soul knows it's her. And he's like, I'm going to tell you everything. There's 2 of them.
Now there are 2 of them. Jesus. George.
Now there are 2 of them.
They've gone up the ventilation shaft.
They've gone up the ventilation shaft.
You know what's weird about that whole Phantom opening? First of all, when I was a kid, before I realized Phantom Menace is not great, I really was enjoying that whole opening, with the light.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I went to see Phantom Menace 5 times in the movie theater.
Wow. I saw like 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw Attack of the Clones twice. I saw Revenge of the Sith twice. Something like that.
It's like every single time I was really trying to see if I could like Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar Binks a little bit more every time. Like, I guess he's funny.
Lord of the Rings. I saw Fellowship twice. I sound like the guy from Clerks 2. 2 Towers, 7, and Return of the King 6.
How many times? Well, 3 for Fellowship, 2 for Towers, 4 for Return.
So yeah, so episode 6, like whatever. It was strange. It was like sexy, I guess, which I guess reminded me of X-Men 97 a little bit, but it didn't really make much sense. So I just kind of I forgot about it. This episode 7, is a flashback, and it kind of is it's the second half of episode 3, so it's the same flashback.
A la Back to the Future 2.
Yeah, because they show most of the same stuff. Like 50% of the episode is the same, but from like a different camera angle. And they reveal more mystery box stuff, but I don't think it matters. Like if it was supposed to tell me like, oh, this is why like Torben killed himself, it's like he killed himself over this?
Right. Like, isn't there more to be said? But there probably isn't.
I don't think so, because there's 1 episode left after this. Yeah, I'm confused. And this was the most confusing one. All the Jedi act so stupid. They act very dumb. I can't even, like, they're like bumbling almost. Like bumbling.
They definitely don't feel like Jedi to me.
They arrive on the planet, and they're looking for, like, a vergence in the Force, because apparently this planet was desolate, and all of a sudden it has like a bunch of life on it. So the Chewbacca has a metal detector, and he's like scanning things, and they're scanning
like literally
moss.
a metal detector.
Yeah, it's a boomer coated metal detector. Like you'd get at an army surplus store or something, and then they stumble upon Soul stumbles upon the kids. We saw him hiding behind the tree in the previous one. And he's like, I need to have these kids. And it's like weird. What is the revelation is that
while May did in fact burn the joint down, there was a confrontation between the witches and the Jedi, wherein Soul killed Mother Gothel, or whatever the hell her name is.
Yeah, they're having a confrontation, and she starts turning into like a mist, like a monster mist, and he gets scared. And so he stabs the mist. But then she she recomposes and is like I'm confused about this witch power is what I'm saying.
She was turning into the mist slowly, like it was like a pretty ineffective attack, frankly. Like of course, like she left herself wide open,
and Soul thought she was like gonna like grab or attack the children or something. So I think this is supposed to be like a cop like kill like a when a cop pulls somebody over and they go for the glove box and the cop like shoots them or something.
Yeah. The whole thing is a police analogy, right, or allegory.
That's what I got from it, but it's everything is dumb about it.
And then Carrie Ann Moss says, let's lie about it to the council and never tell anybody about this because, it would just, to further traumatize OSHA would be the true unethical thing to do. So remember like the Guardians of Peace, Justice, and Truth in the Galaxy? Well, not so much, and that's that was Leslie's whole pitch for this whole show was like, let's subvert the Jedi. She goes, well, Star Wars has always been about institutionalized power, right? So it's always underserved people fighting against institutionalized power, right? And so in this case, 100 years before, not too far behind Phantom Menace, but not too long after KOTOR, during the High Republic, the Jedi would have been the institutionalized power, right? And so the Sith would have been the good guys, right?
Jeez.
What I'm really interested in is Star Wars from the perspective of the bad guys. Therefore, if we set something earlier in the timeline, something before the prequels, but a little bit after, end of High Republic, I was like, then the Jedi become, because Star Wars is always about rebels versus institutional threat, right? Underdogs versus huge empire, right? So if we set it then the Jedi become the antagonists. It's not the bad guys, but they become the bad guys to the bad guys. And I gotta say, Kathy really responded to that.
The whole thing was, let's make the Jedi look like assholes. And I'll say this, the prequels didn't help. George made the Jedi look like, like stubborn, kind of boring bureaucrats and stuff. And I don't think that was completely his intention. I think it was a little bit. But I think the Jedi came off like really poorly in those movies, and it made it really easy to make the jump of like, maybe these guys are the true assholes, when that really isn't the story. It can't be the story. The good guys are actually
kind of like a calcified institution. It definitely like overlooking things and being kind of arrogant. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think one of the ways I would characterize the show, right? Because fundamentally the writing is really poor. But why?
Yeah. It's made by frauds. Made by complete fucking frauds. Like, no, like, seriously, though. Like, somebody who, like, applied for the job and was not qualified at all, and they got the job, and now this, like, I don't know if you've ever had a job that you weren't qualified for, and then you started, like, trying to do it, and you're screwing up too much, and people noticed. This is like if you were even worse than that.
We just weren't pulling it off.
Yeah.
But maybe like there's like one boss at the place who's like defending you for some reason, like to the bitter end.
I gotta say, Kathy really responded to that.
By the way, Star Wars is the most popular movie franchise of all time. It may not even be close. Like, I don't know who second or third would be. Harry Potter. I don't know, but it's Star Wars is the winner. MCU, I guess, but that's like many franchises in one. And if you want it to go based on longevity, Star Wars still wins. So when Star Wars takes these weird zigs and zags in terms of its quality, in terms of like the people who are overseeing it, the people who care about it, the people who want to change it, the people who don't want to change, that's all very interesting because it is a reflection of, like, popular culture is a reflection of society. These are the stories that people respond to. These are the stories people see themselves in, and so these are the stories that have endured. Right. There's a lot of stories. Very few stick around. And so it's interesting. To me, it's almost like following human psychology. It's like following the entertainment industry generally. Like I think the conversations around like the success and failures of these shows, they account for such a huge percentage of box office and streaming that it's kind of like analyzing, it's a proxy for analyzing all of Hollywood and trends in Hollywood and in writing and in competency and what stories do people want to tell. And, and so it's those are the reasons I find it interesting and want to keep coming back to it. There is this like, every time we bring it up, there is some contingent in the comments that, like, they're not having it. They don't want to. And I can't help but feel like if it had been some other show or some other movie that they approved of you disliking, but this one's on their team, and so it's team sports.
But it gets to a point where this is failing at every single level. So
That's what makes it interesting. The more they fail, the more I'm interested in why you defend it.
Yeah, and so like I don't know why, I don't understand why you're putting on the clown makeup to defend this fucking thing.
Yeah. And again, you know, they'll be like, "Well, I'm not going to defend it because it's bad," but it's not bad because it's got a political agenda, or because, you know, it's like, and somebody, they'll be like, you know, how is it political? It's only that it has a diverse cast. I'm like, not only. I think like making a big allegory for institutionalized power is, you know, the Jedi are actually bad, and let's subvert Star Wars. That in and of itself is kind of like a rebellious postmodern sort of thing that I'm not sure it belongs in Star Wars. Like maybe it belongs in some other thing, but I'm not sure it belongs in like a King Arthur story, which is effectively what Star Wars is, with like wizards and sorcerers, and you know, that's what I'm picking up is it. And then there's this other thing too that I keep hearing that's like, well, George Lucas was deeply political. I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, in Star Wars A New Hope, it's about the Viet Cong, man. That whole movie's about the Viet Cong. I'm like, no.
I mean, because he said it like in a semi-recent interview.
You did something very interesting with Star Wars, if you think about it. The good guys are the rebels. They're using asymmetric warfare against a highly organized empire. I think we call those guys terrorists today. We call them Mujahideen, we call them Al-Qaeda.
When I did it, they were Viet Cong.
Exactly. So were you thinking of that at the time?
Yes.
Don't listen to him, ever. This is the guy who would have you believe that all 9 episodes were plotted out at the beginning. If it's convenient, he'll tell you that it's all made for children and you're an idiot for watching.
The movies are for children, but they don't want to admit that.
You know, it's a film for 12-year-olds.
He retcons everything, that dude.
Yeah. Even puts musical numbers into his things after the fact.
He may be one of the most famous, like retcon guys of all time. He'll stick Jabba the Hutt.
I don't think Han should shoot him in cold blood. And it's like, yeah, he should.
Because otherwise, you're going to get all mixed up. You're going to think that Star Wars A New Hope is a political allegory for the Viet Cong made for children. That's what you're going to be stuck with if you listen to everything that dude says. Now, look, were politics on his mind? Yeah. Was World War II factored in there? Yeah. There was some of the Nazi, thing with the officers. There were World War II dogfights that were used for inspiration for the dogfights. Yeah, but also there was Kurosawa. And also there was Joseph Campbell, and also there was Lord of the Rings. And, that's what makes it a powerful piece of media, is that it sources from humanity itself, not from what was spouted on Twitter 10 minutes ago.
How in the world you could take an orange amphibian and say that he's a Jamaican? I
think one of the cornerstones of what makes the writing poor is it's kind of, the part of Last Jedi where Luke was actually, he was going to kill him and then he decided not to, but then it was too late. Now he's turned to the dark side. So Luke did a bad thing and he's repenting. And like the writing just doesn't make sense. Like you know that Luke needed to be in exile, but that doesn't really make any sense. So you had to contrive some nonsense to get there.
Yeah.
I feel like everything in this story is that.
Yes.
Everything is like, I need the chess pieces to be here, here, and here. And so I'll just like contrive bizarre things, inconsistent things, things that don't comport with what we just heard,
It's to the point where like, I don't know what any of these characters are because things have chaotically happened. Like for example, let's bring House of the Dragon in it. When one of the characters like finally makes the decision to do something, they have put in the work to get to that. A character makes a decision, it's dramatic, but they put in the work that you can understand why he made that decision.
Yeah.
In this, it's chaos. It's like, why did Torben kill himself? Well, he was homesick, so he like sped to the witch's lair, but then he can't get in, so Sol shows up, and then he's like, let's go rescue some kids, and then he gets like mind taken over by the witches, and then the Chewbacca gets mind taken over, and then he hurts Torben. Like, why does Torben want to kill himself after that? It's chaos.
Yeah. Yep. It's all contrivances to get where I've listened to my share of Peter Gould and Vince Gilligan with Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. Those guys have like a really strong ethos around, you never make a character do something just to get where you want them to go. You like always follow the character and let the character kind of tell you. You know, great writers, you'll hear other great writers say that too. And I would say, like, if you watch Better Call Saul, it's almost like chronically like that. It's almost at the expense of the show, and the show is too amazing for me to say that. But there are actually times where like it's like, wow, this thing really doesn't like feel the need to get anywhere. It's just spending time with the characters. You're just making sure that we understand the characters to a T. But that's what makes, you know, like, so I want to talk about mystery boxes and twists. In these past 2 episodes, you know, so like one twist was Smilo Ren is Smilo Ren. Another one was, then it's like, like the guy that just went on a murdering spree and was super evil in episode whatever 5. In episode 6, he's like really nice and really kind, and it seems like he has a point maybe.
You murdered my friends.
I killed Jedi. I killed those who threatened my existence.
You killed Yord.
A man who didn't hesitate to turn you in for a crime you didn't commit.
And then like, oh, there was a scene where May was acting super evil, but then like actually in a different room, she was being really nice and was making perfect sense. And Sol, he's been really a real sweetheart since the beginning, but really in a different room, he's being mean to May. And everything is like, it's just withholding what should be natural information to the viewer, just in the interest of being like, nah, you didn't know. And that's not interesting. That's just, it's manipulating the audience in a superficial way versus like, well, what's suspense, right? Because you're trying to build intrigue and suspense. That's what they're trying to accomplish. Well, another way to build suspense is to make it crystal clear. Maybe we can think of the Inglourious Bastards bar scene. Make it crystal clear what the stakes are. Make it crystal clear who the characters are. Make it so that the audience is abundantly clear on the different options that could happen, and then ratchet up the suspense because you're just like, I know how this game is rigged, and I'm just not sure how it's going to play out. That's an exciting scene.
Yes.
Because you want to know how another human being is going to react. You're connected to another human being. There's nothing like that here.
It's like House of the Dragon. The first 3 episodes ratcheted it up. You had like, there was no like secrets really. It was just like, you had both sides, you had them like do their maneuvers, and then in the 4th episode where things come to a head, you're excited to see how with everything ratcheting up, how it explodes, and it does explode, and it is exciting, even though you might have like saw it coming, because but it just, the way things unfold and everything, all the characters and their reactions make sense, you are titillated and excited, and it is satisfying.
Yeah, like I think maybe some writers think that predictability is counteracts suspense. Like, no, I think like inevitability could be the ultimate suspense sometimes. Where you're like, I'm just waiting for the hammer to drop because that hammer is going to drop, and I'm like so aware of the hammer. You know, to me, like those are some of the most exciting stories. But yeah, is there such a thing as Luke, I am your father? Yeah, of course. But that's kind of that's all well positioned. We know that there's this Luke has a father that is really important in his life, and an important figure in his mentor's life, and so that's very destabilizing for him to find out. But it also makes perfect sense in the story.
Even though it was probably made up for The Empire Strikes Back, they did the work within even that movie to set it up.
The Sixth Sense. Actually, he's been dead the whole time. You know, that's the whole movie is designed around that gimmick, right? And that's the story, ultimately. The story and the characters hinge on that reality. When you love Disney and Star Wars, you're a shill. And if you hate all of Disney and Star Wars all the time or habitually, which we've been accused of, I'm like, I liked Mando 1 and 2. I liked Boba Fett, which is unpopular. I like Tales
Guardians
from the
of
Jedi.
the Galaxy.
Yeah, I mean, that's not quite true. Yeah. If you, go into Marvel, it's Guardians of the Galaxy. But if you habitually dislike them, you're a grifter. Like there was a guy in our comments that was going on and on about how like we're rage baiting for money. That's why we talk about Star Wars.
Oh yeah, all the money that we've raised off of Star Wars.
I need you to know that the average podcast clip brings in $20 lifetime. That's it. So, and the channel is obviously not hinged on Star Wars. It's much like the AVGN accusations. You're doing it for this or that. And it made me think, I was like, that's one of the more interesting accusations where you're like, I actually don't believe that you have this opinion. I'm like, what's so unbelievable about the fact that I would think this show sucks? Why would I be lying about that fact or exaggerating it or something? And I bring it up because I think that, and I do this too, and we're so aware now, more aware than ever, of like, what's this guy selling me? Who's he work for? Who's his master? Who's pulling his strings? And the truth is like, no matter how like non-profit you are, no matter who you are, like there is some master that you're serving, whether it's like, we're being accused of like, it's the algorithm that's your master. It's your sponsors. That's, we don't have any in our case, but your sponsors. But like, yeah, like I've got a worldview. I've got like a background. I've got like an ideology. Yes, I see things through that. So like, you're not wrong to be like, oh, that means this or that, but I don't know. Does that mean that you're like bought and sold? Like the next leap is like, that means you're bought and sold. Like, no, I'm just a human being.
Yeah. I like movies. I want to like them.
And I'm interested in, the conventional wisdom right now seems to be that if you hate on something, it will be more successful automatically than something that you like. And I'm going to challenge that a little bit. It's somewhat true. Our House of the Dragon review did poorly. I think some of that might be because, I don't know, maybe the audience isn't following that show as well or something. Whereas the Acolyte, which we know like people don't watch very well, those perform better.
The view count definitely shows. Whenever I do something negative, it gets a lot of views.
That's what people like. People like drama, and people like fucking like complaining and bitching and moaning.
So I can see why people would think that. I also can see why you think that because you see these cottage industries of rage baiters and all the rest of it. But what I have found in terms of reception is that if we talk about a movie or show that we liked a lot, and a lot of like half our audience didn't like it, they don't downvote the video, they don't get mad at you, there's not as much punishment for liking something as there is for disliking it.
People always talk about, well, it pays to hate something. It pays to grift. I can tell you firsthand from experience that is not true. It pays much more to love something, to push something, to shill for something, let's say even.
Whereas if we hate on something, even if the vast majority of our audience agrees with us, like it'll get downvoted more. It'll get more vitriolic comments. People will hit harder at you for like daring to dislike the thing. Which of course is you're right.
Well, you gotta not like stuff, and you gotta be able to express it.
Well, some people have asked why hey, are you just watching this at this point because it's Star Wars? Yes, I think that's the reason. I mean, also again, I think it's representative of the movie industry larger.
Yeah, and I think I'm primed to like Star Wars things. Like in some ways, I'm more open to giving a Star Wars thing a chance. So in that case, I'm actually more biased toward liking a Star Wars, and so when it disappoints me, it is more interesting.
There is the question of like, is there any Star Wars you could just ignore? Well, I ignore Star Wars shit all the time. I don't watch most of the animated stuff, and there's lots of projects,
comic books I've skipped over.
So why the TV shows I think I'm still under the impression somehow that the live action TV shows are designed to be meant to be an extension of the movies. And I think that's reasonable to still think because there have not been any movies for a long time. Like all of Star Wars lives on Disney Plus. And they put Obi-Wan Kenobi on there and they put Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker on there. So like, but man, if Disney Plus was sold on like, you're going to get premium Marvel, you're going to get premium Star Wars, you're going to get movie-like experiences, we're going to invest that kind of money. And reportedly they invest $180 million, but this looks like TV. And it's been very interesting to go from WandaVision,
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah. Remember how like expensive that thing was? They had like those flight suits and that thing was like, they obviously put a lot of money in that. And then, Loki was like a step down, but it had stars in it. So and then like Obi-Wan but Mandalorian looked amazing. But then season 3 didn't. And then like Obi-Wan was the most shocking one. We were like, you're going to do Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi and it's going to be like a TV show?
Yeah. You're going to put like a wiggle filter on the screen so it's like a shaky cam all the time?
Yeah. Their epic like return fight is going to be like on a very clear kind of foggy sound stage. Like, really?
Yeah.
That was shocking. And so you keep hearing about this $180 million. I can only think, I'm like, maybe when the whole production is in-house, it's like the White House buying like a gold, a $2,000 toilet seat or whatever.
You don't actually think they spend $20,000 on a hammer, $30,000 on a toilet seat, do you?
Like it's all their own people, and so it's like it's not really like it's not like spending $180 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything is kind of like they're paying themselves back for everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still money out the door.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's been an interesting sleight of hand to be like, we'll rope them in. It's like the restaurant that reduces its ingredients, where it's like,
right,
come here for great prices and amazing food, and then reformulate, and maybe we can use some sugar, and maybe we can salt it up, and
suddenly you're eating Agatha all along, and you're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, like, when did this place go to hell? It's just like a pure economics thing, where it's just like, what will they accept? And they don't accept the Acolyte, but they will accept something in between the Acolyte and WandaVision in terms of budget.
Yeah.
Maybe WandaVision's not the best example, although that was pretty expensive. But that Falcon and Winter Soldier one, I think that was probably like the most, and Mando season 1 was like the most money on display in my view.
Yeah, at least it definitely looked quality. Both those looked quality. Like House of the Dragon looks quality. Like the blocking, the costumes, everything is like amazing.
That's an example of a show where 70% of it is probably pretty affordable to shoot. It's really like these kind of highlight sequences that are where a lot of the money is. And that's okay. Like you can totally do it that way. Godzilla -1 is like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes the budget is in the impression that the piece gives off. How about that credits music at the end of episode 7?
Parts of me will die with you, and I think it's gonna be the good parts.
Okay, I'm listening to it now. Oh.
Star Wars.
Oh no! Especially with the font, when you get the fucking the font at the end, the credits font, and you have that playing, it's cognitive dissonance.
Look, it's like, why is this Star Wars then? Sounds like you want to make something else. Like you're just gonna like be a parasite on old franchises.
Yes,
because it's profitable and you can like launder in your own thing.
Yes.
It's shitty. And I'm tired of acting like it's not.
Well, I don't think we ever.
I don't think I ever acted like it wasn't. But I would probably be a lot quieter about it if I didn't hear
so much noisy, annoying shit.
Like weird responses to it, like defenses of it. I don't get it.
Yeah. And some of the people I don't even think have watched it.
Actually, a lot of them haven't. A lot of them have. Yeah, they're just mad that you're mad. Right. And you have a right to be mad about the most popular film franchise in cinema history being like completely dragged over the coal. I mean, I know it's been, and here's the cute one that, you know, there are people who think they're in the middle, and they go, they actually will say Star Wars always sucked. I'm like, come on now. Come on now.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah, the original trilogy sucked. Well, Jedi did. It didn't. Return of the Jedi did not suck. Get the fuck out of here. It was a really, really good movie. It's not as good as the first two. All three are. It's the most popular film franchise in history. Well, just because it's popular doesn't mean that it's good. It's been around for 50 fucking years. You know, it's a heck of a test.
Yeah. There's didn't somebody in our like Discord say like Will Smith like always sucked, and I'm like,
yeah,
wait,
no, it was in the comments because when we did the Film Bros thing, I was talking about how Bad Boys 2 did well, and somebody was like, but Will Smith has always sucked. I'm like, what are you talking about?
He was the biggest movie star ever in the 90s. He was literally like the highest paid, most like blockbuster star like ever. He did rap songs. He was everywhere. He didn't always suck.
How long before like Rings of Power is the I think it's right up there with this kind of shit. So you know, Disney gets picked on. They shouldn't get picked on as much as they do because they're all guilty of this. When are people going to start saying like Lord of the Rings always sucked? Like just to fly cover for this trash that was, you know, shoveled out onto TV to make a quick streaming buck. Like, I'm like, why the fuck are you defending this?
It's because Legolas tossed Gimli, so it's always stupid. It's like, go away.
My analogy for the political thing, because people are like, well, you know, but lots of things are political and they're not bad. Just because it's political doesn't mean it's bad. It's, you know, I'm like, that's all true. But when you're severely politically motivated, that's what causes you to come up with She-Hulk in the first place, and you know, or the kind of treatment that She-Hulk got. That's what causes you to be like, I know what we could do, like a cheap Star Wars show where the Jedi are really the bad guys. Like that's what it's the fuel that inspires the bad creative decisions. It's the bad starting place is to be like, I want to throw a postmodern lens on Star Wars. The analogy would be like, he didn't get in a crash because he was drunk. Like people drive drunk all the time and don't get in crashes. It's like, yeah, but yeah, it was causal. You know? If you don't think they're drunk on politics, like you got another thing coming. And by the way, like Leslie Headland is not the drunk driver. Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger are the drunk drivers. She's the car or the alcohol.
She's the alcohol.
Yeah, she's the alcohol. So I don't blame her. Like you hired who you hired, you know, somebody who wanted to subvert Star Wars. So I wanted final thing about the Acolyte, because we're going to do one more video about this, of course, because we haven't seen the finale. But I think the most delightful question is, what could that last episode possibly be? Like, let's do predictions.
They have a lot of work to do because they haven't done anything.
They haven't done anything, right? They retold the same bad episode twice.
And I still don't really know who Osha and May are.
No.
As people.
Because they just keep faking you out to interest you.
Yeah. And I'm guessing the horny mom is going to be alive and going to be the secret Sith, but I don't know.
Remember I said like Plagueis is part of this? Given that the show did nothing, pulling Plagueis out at the last second feels like maybe they'll do it.
Here's the real question. Do you think this is going to get a season 2?
It's a great question. I think that maybe the slightly better question would be, are they going to tease season 2? Because obviously it's not getting a season. Well, I'd say that, but Rings of Power is getting a season 2.
No. I think it's completely plausible it's getting a season 2. Just to like own the chuds. I think they would. Andor did bad and it's getting a season 2.
Oh, is it getting one? Why didn't they do another Obi-Wan then? It was actually successful. Ahsoka, I'm sure they'll do more. Well, yeah, I think Ahsoka, the plan with her is to do more Mando, more Boba Fett or something. I still honestly I know people don't like Boba Fett. I think that show is the most Star Warsy thing that they've put out since they bought Star Wars. Like that finale with the Rancor and stuff was pretty Star Warsy.
Oh, here's the other question. Do you think like after people kind of shat on the witches like music number that they cut it out of this episode before they aired it? Because they could have done it from a different angle.
I don't think so. Because I really think like they get a kick out of pissing off fans. I think it's like part of the art. It's part of what like inspires them when they get up in the morning. You don't put like a ridiculous pop song in the credits for no reason. Like unless like you're like, I want to antagonize fans. I want to see what they'll say. Will they dare to criticize my pop song?
Swing, swing. Thought I had a life with you.
It's like that wasn't like sang by like Leslie Headland's wife, was it? It was like is there like a nepotism reason this is in here?
Oh yeah, you were like, I think in the final episode, the twins will shovel money into a furnace, and Leslie Headland's bald wife will do the Macarena.
Because how do you even wrap this up? Because there's nothing. You'd have to introduce things to wrap up.
Yeah, like how could you, in a satisfactory way, in 30 minutes to 50, maybe it's going to be 50 minutes, I don't know. But how do you like wrap up Soul? How do you wrap up, they got to kill him? How do you wrap up Smilo Ren at this point? We know nothing about this guy. Does the Jedi Council ever hear about any of this? One bit of it? Does Ki-Adi-Mundi factor back in? To me, the biggest question that the narrative has set up is like, will the witches come back in some way, shape, or form? But really, I think what Leslie's interested in is the siblings, right? Because she keeps talking about how it's Frozen meets Kill Bill. So she's interested in like the siblings coming. So maybe the siblings come back together and become Dark Jedi, and then maybe they mentored Darth Plagueis. Maybe Darth Plagueis is Smilo Ren. I don't know.
I just look at the run times between Acolyte and Hot D. And I'm thinking about how 30 minutes goes by, the whole episode of Acolyte, and nothing happens. And there's an hour of just luscious, textured things in House of the Dragon for me to feast upon.
Where everything matters and all the characters are doing interesting things. And when you said, oh, I bet the show's going to be nothing but mystery boxes, man, I could never have predicted how right you'd be.
Yeah, I couldn't even predict how right I'd be. I just saw the kernels, like, oh, okay, I see that, but no, it's all that. It's every single thing. It contorts over itself to do them.
It reminds me of there was a Battlestar Galactica straight to DVD movie when that show was coming out in like 2008 or whatever. The story was like from the Cylon's point of view. The point of the DVD was you'd be in like a different room and the Cylons were in the room next door. Because I think it was like when the show was going along, they hadn't revealed who was a Cylon yet. And the showrunners, I'm sure, didn't know who was a Cylon. But that was the whole show is who's a Cylon. And these humanoid robots that want to kill humanity. And it was like they're actually in the room next door. So once they had revealed them, they were able to go back and make a movie and be like, they're plotting. And there was a few times where there was this like really cheap ass footage of either like binoculars or something, where they're like, oh, like this shot suddenly is from this perspective. They just kind of rammed it in because it wasn't designed with the rest of the show. And that's what it feels like. It's just like, well, actually, in the room next door, something surprising was happening. Fuck you. It's so easy to be the smartest guy in the room when you don't tell anybody anything. So we'll do it one more time. As far as predictions go, now that we've talked about it, I realize I have no clue what's going to happen. They got me there. I got no clue. I don't have any predictions. Normally, it's like kind of predictable. I got nothing.
Yeah.
I guess people will die. Somebody will die, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Who cares? It is the most interesting Star Wars project because of this.
I'm having a good time. Make no mistake. Don't get me wrong. I'm having a good time.
I am Anastasia, mother of this coven.
No. Coven sounds like oven, man, and that's just, it doesn't work.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.